Whitaker Weekly is a 3-episode anime discussion podcast where two brothers discuss a show of their choice. The show can be anything from a current season flop to a decades-old classic. What are they going to talk about next? Who knows? They sure don't. And this is Whitaker Weekly. Let's get right into it. The news. You found a little bit of the news for us to talk about.
Yes. Crunchyroll announced their winter 2019 anime simulcast lineup. And in that list, it mentioned that Konosuba is finally getting an English dub.
Yay.
Well, some of our listeners may prefer English dubs over anime.
I get that. I know that. I'm just of the opinion that Crunchyroll, they're for streaming Japanese, and they should just go ahead. If they want to have an English, they should have just sold the English rights to another company, and then use that money to go ahead and work on Season 3 of Konosuba. But, you know, it's their money. They spend it how they want. Anyway, right. As I've taken the thunder out of that little bit of an announcement.
Yeah, you have. All right. Other bit of news we have is that for the week of December 31st through January 6th, Japan's animation Blu-ray disc ranking has been announced, and Zombieland Saga's DVD or Blu-ray disc sales reached number 2 in the country.
Nice.
Just below Incredibles 2 at number 1 and Coco at number 3. So a lot of these were Disney or Pixar
nice.
Blu-rays. And so Zombieland Saga jumped into the middle of all of these Disney and Pixar international hits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Sorry, this news is a little bit old because we didn't update it from the last time we were going to be recording, but we had some sickness. So those of you who are listening are probably like, yeah, that's old news. But anyways, now that we've covered that little bit, let's go ahead and jump right into 3 episodes in.
All right.
And it was your pick this week.
And this week, I stumbled across this show that you happen to have already seen called Shirobako.
Mm-hmm.
The Crunchyroll synopsis reads, in a school in northeastern Japan, 5 friends in the animation club, Aoi, Emma, Shizuka, Misa, and Midori, swear to complete a new anime called Shinbutsu Konko Shichi Fukujin. And they swear upon some donuts. Since then, day after day, the 5 spend all of their time on anime production. The awe of going from rough sketches to animation and the awkward acting in the after recording session, the final product was finished at the cultural fair 6 months later. After they graduated, they still pursued animation and swore on some donuts that they would make another anime together. In fact, all of that happens within the first 5 minutes of the first episode.
Yeah, that's before the opening credits of the first episode.
So, yes, all of that actually happens.
Mm-hmm. So they're a bunch of high school friends, and it's a montage of them, and it's a, I want to say, a long scene montage where it's, instead of it just being like clip, it's here they're working on the storyboard and they've got a couple of lines. Here they're working on the animation and a couple of lines. Here they're working on the coloring with a couple of lines, a couple of lines of dialogue, and then they're doing the voiceovers and things like that. Right. So yeah.
It reminded me actually, as you're discussing that. One of the classes I took at film school talked about the use of cutting to indicate the passage of time. And one of the most useful tools for that is the jump cut. And the clip they brought up was, I can't remember the movie, but what's his name? Billy Crystal plays an author who has writer's block.
Okay.
And can't figure out how to start something that he's writing on. And so what happens is the camera's in one place, but it cuts to him in various places in the room doing different things, like crumpling up a piece of paper and throwing it. And then suddenly he's across the room banging his head against the wall. And then suddenly he's doing something else. And So it indicated using those jump cuts about the extended passage of time. And something that they did during this opening montage was indicate how much time had been passing, and that people were like lounging about and in the heat of summer and waiting for their turn to do something and getting overheated. Like, all right, that's as much animation as I can do. Somebody take over. And so that's kind of how this opening sequence turned out before the opening credits.
Yeah. And then with the opening credits, after they swear upon their donuts, it cuts to and they're all talking about how they want to go to Tokyo after high school or after college or whatever. And one of the girls wants to be a voice actress. One of them wants to be an animator. One of them wants to. They all want to work in the animation industry somehow, in some way, and all except for and the main character, or the POV character. What's her name? She's
Aoi
Miyamori, blonde with blue eyes. Aoi Miyamori. But anyway, she's the POV character. And it cuts to her inside of a car, and she's looking very, very tired. And
at this point, we don't know that she's in the anime industry, and then somebody with a studio logo on their car pulls up next to her.
Yep.
And we know that she promised she'd be in the anime industry, but at this particular shot, we don't know that she's in it yet. And then she sees somebody that's sitting next to her, and he sees her, and she sees him, and he starts revving his engine, and she just sighs. And then what does she do?
Well, she but before that, she's listening to the radio, and on the radio comes on a bunch of voice actresses for a new show called Exodus, and she gets super excited about it. It turns out that's the show her studio's working on. But she, anyways, she's just like, she sighs, and then the two of them have a street race.
They do.
They have a street race, just like swerving,
it's like initial
drifting through the streets, all while she's singing along to the theme song of this show that she's been working on, because the voice actresses are singing it for them on this radio show.
Live on the radio show.
Right, live on the radio show. And it's just a street racer to see who can get to freelance artists first. And the other guy is about to win, but he doesn't notice a road construction sign, and so he starts
off-roading.
He starts off-roading in a car that is not intended for off-roading, and she takes her time and drives carefully on it, and because of that, she's able to
make the turn.
She's able to make the turn and then pull into the artist's driveway.
Yeah.
And then the guy pulls up and says, "Curse you, Miyamori Aoi, it's always you. How do you always beat me?" And she's just like, "Ha ha." And she goes up, and she's here to pick up artwork from what are called key frames.
Yes.
And one of the things that's great about this show is that they really kind of show you all the work that goes into animation.
Yes.
And key frames, they are the most important frames in a scene.
Right.
And then they have other animators draw the things that go on in between those.
Those are actually literally called in-betweeners.
Yeah, they're in-betweeners. So you have people who are still fairly new to the industry. They're good artists, but they're not as skilled as a key framer. But the in-betweeners, it's then their job to go ahead and draw the things that the frames that happen in between the keyframes.
Right. Now, generally what would happen, though, is the keyframes would go to a rough cut animator who would synchronize in time and say, okay, this frame starts at this point, and this frame
That's
starts
what
at
they're
this
doing
point.
later on, though. That's what they're doing later on. Like, the directors are doing that.
The directors are doing that, and the in-betweeners would be given instructions saying, okay, there are 5 frames between this keyframe and this keyframe, and there are 7 frames between this keyframe and this keyframe. And so that is one of the things that they do with the keyframes in the process of animating. So
when she first gets the keyframes, she then takes them to a director, and then you see the directors and stuff. One of them works inside of his head, but the other one works will say the line out loud, and he times them. They time themselves on stopwatches, and they know how many frames per second they're going to need. So that's what they say. Okay, this needs this many frames. This needs this many frames, and then they send them to the in-betweeners.
Yep.
But anyway,
they also go to the keyframes also go to an animation supervisor, who maybe does a little bit of touch-up, but that's covered in another episode.
That's covered in keyframes will go to supervisor first to do touch-up. Yeah, but again, that's covered in episode 3.
Yes.
But in episode 1, she gets back from picking up the keyframes, and nobody's in the office. And then she goes, she's wondering where they all are, and then she goes upstairs, and they're all everybody who's still there that night is in an office room together, and they are going to be watching.
They're in a meeting room, a big banquet table or something,
to celebrate the launch of their new show Exodus.
Yes.
And we meet. I didn't bother writing anybody's names down just because there's so many characters in this show.
One of the problems this show seems to have is that there are a lot of characters, and their character designs aren't terribly unique. They're unique enough that you can tell people apart, but they don't have the kind of standout.
To me, that's not a problem.
Oh, sure.
To me, that's not a problem. This is my. I mean, this is my third time watching the first 3 episodes.
Sure.
And even on my first time, I'm like, even though I didn't catch everybody's names, I was still able to tell who was who and who was working on what.
Sure.
So,
but they did take the time. Like, they have these moments of freeze frames where they'll have their name and their job.
Yeah.
Listed on them, and that's kind of something like they did in My Hero Academia, where every time a character pops up on screen, they also put in their name and their power.
They do that quite a bit in this show, just because they know there's so many characters, so they go ahead and give you their name and job title.
Right.
A lot of the times when they reintroduce a character after a while. As this is happening, they're talking as the episode hits and they start getting good reviews, and apparently they were the second trending show that night, so they're very excited about it. They start celebrating. I didn't write his name down, but the president of the company, he doesn't do any animation. He's just the guy who makes sure everything is running.
Yeah.
He is always making food.
He is.
He's always making food because he knows that food helps things work smoothly.
It's so true.
And like they're in one scene, they're having a big fight, and he brings in a plate of takoyaki. In this scene, he's cooking up curry.
Yeah.
In another scene, he's cooking up something else for someone else, and then the office manager comes up and she just says, "The people in the office next door are complaining about the smell." Type thing. It's just,
like the upstairs people or downstairs.
Yeah,
people,
whoever they are, they're complaining about the smell.
Like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. And then then another scene, he hands somebody a quiche that he made for them. So he's always making people food because he knows that, food smooths things over. Food makes people happy.
It's a known quantity, even in the real world, in court of law. If you're going to be facing a judge, you're more likely to get a lenient sentence if you face him right after lunch instead of right before. Because people get angry the hungrier they are. And when you're in a high and they demonstrate during these 3 episodes, and I'm confident through the rest of the series, how stressful the animation industry is. With the deadlines that they have to meet week after week.
We're going to go ahead and see in the coming episodes just how.
So well-fed stressed people perform better than not well-fed stressed people. Just
how much Miyamori falls apart. Because she's not taking care of herself when some really stressful things happen.
Yes.
But anyway, now that we've gone into that, that's one of the things I actually like about it, is that it's a colorful cast of different characters.
It is.
So for me, I'm able to and because this is the 3rd time I've watched the first 3 episodes. I haven't watched the entire show. It's 2 seasons. More than once, but another thing that this show does, and I'll just go ahead and say it, it doesn't do it in the first 3 episodes, but in the nature of the animation industry and in any industry, people move on and new people come in. So people who are part of the cast will leave to pursue other things as other people come in and take their place, or someone will get promoted and take that person's place, and then other people will come in and become new assistants and things like that.
Right.
And that's what Miyamori is. She is a production assistant. She's one of the people. She's been assigned episode 4 and episode 9.
She's a PA.
She's a PA, and it's her job to keep track of everything on those episodes and make sure everything goes smoothly. And she's doing fairly well for herself for episode 4. Episode 4 is apparently a very big, important episode. Unfortunately, the person who's been there longer than her is not so up on things, and he's in charge of episode 3. I think he's in charge of episode 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we learned that
Isn't he the one that was racing her?
No,
No, that was somebody else.
no. That's the guy who was. I don't think we ever see him outside of the car.
No, we do. It wasn't. I swear we do. I swear he's involved in like one of the episodes. She starts bribing him to help him get stuff in episode 3.
No.
That's not him?
That's a different guy. He's
Huh?
that
Okay,
guy.
so I can't keep him straight then.
Yeah. Yeah. No. The guy in the car had longer hair and a bigger nose.
Okay.
So, and he works for a completely different studio. Whereas this guy, like the name on his studio is not the name on her studio.
Okay.
He's with IG Production,
Uh-huh.
which is a play, or not like, it was like IP Production, which is a play off of IG Production. And I can't remember what the name of her studio is, but he's... The guy you're thinking of is one of the animation directors.
Okay, yes.
And he's got issues with one of the artists.
Yes, he does.
There's a relationship going on. There is some juicy backstory between those characters that they never actually get into. They leave it up to your imagination. But anyway, so episode 2 or episode 1, I didn't write his name down, but Mohawk guy, because that's what he has. He has a mohawk. While they are reviewing the episode, they suddenly realize that a major scene is still in storyboard. It never even got the keyframes, and they're just like, "Oh, we're sure that you just misplaced the keyframes, right? Right? Where are the keyframes?" And he just gets up and apologizes. And this guy, I can't remember if he grows or not, but. For the first several episodes, everything like it is his fault.
Yeah, he's
that
a problem magnet.
It is his fault. So they point out very, very much that animation is a team job, that everybody needs to work together in order to make sure things work. And if one person doesn't pull their weight, we see what happens.
It's true.
Especially when that one person is a production assistant. And that person is this guy. He didn't pull his weight. He lost track of things, and the artist who was assigned to do the keyframes ended up not being able to do the job, and now they're at a loss. They don't know what to do, and so they after talking things out and figuring out what to do, they decided to go ahead and try to approach the key animator who we saw at the beginning of the episode. I don't remember what her name is, but she's a busty woman. And the men are talking about how amazing she is because of her breasts. But Miyamoto's just like, you have no idea how hard it is. Talking about how she is...
The shoulder and back pain.
Shoulder and back pain. And she's leaning over the entire time as an artist, making it that much worse.
It is. It's so true.
So, yeah.
It's not healthy.
And so they go to her, and she's the only one who... Everyone else said no. Literally everyone else said no. They can't do it in-house. The people who are doing it in-house are either not experienced enough, or they're too busy with other things. They can't do it. And so they go to her, even though she's in charge of she's working on the stuff for episode 9. Or like episode 4. Yeah. And she's not done with the stuff for episode 4 yet. And so finally, she agrees to do this stuff for episode 3, and she's going to have it done. She's going to work through the night to get it done. We come back the next day, and the guy with the mohawk is just trying to play it off like it's nothing, and everybody's shouting at him because he's an idiot. And you see that through the entire first 3 episodes. People are not treating him kindly.
People are treating him ridiculously honestly. Like, no, this is your fault. Deal with it. Either grow or leave. You're causing problems.
Pretty much, yeah.
And actually, something I wrote down on my great things about this episode, it was the first thing I have listed here is actually that because the rush cut was still in the storyboards, it reminded me of the story I heard about how Neon Genesis Evangelion was running out of time and budget when they got to the last few episodes, and that's why the animation started looking like that at the end. And so, if you want to see what it looks like when things like that happen to shows, you can go and watch the last 2 or 3 episodes of Neon Genesis Evangelion in the original run and see what happens.
Well, and I'm starting to suspect, I wonder if that's why so many shows have a recap episode, is that just things go wrong.
That's actually the title of episode 3.
Yeah, no more recap episodes.
That if so much goes wrong, they're like, we just need an extra week to make up for everything. Let's just throw everything into everything we have so far into a new episode.
Let's just throw everything into a recap episode. Just like, no. Yeah, no. So I just can't help but wonder that at this point, if a recap episode is we need more time type thing.
Sure.
You know? I mean, for long shows, I'm more understanding of recap episodes. For comedies, I'm pretty sure I saw an episode where episode 2 was a recap of episode 1. It was only like the first 5 minutes. I think that may be Gintama. No, that wasn't Gintama.
There was a recap episode of Kill la Kill. But because Kill la Kill is so awesome, the recap episode was just a fast forward of everything they had done so far in less than 2 minutes. And then they're going
Was that episode 2? I forget.
I think it was episode 6 or 7, but it was
like,
here at Kill la Kill, everything is so awesome. Even our recap episode is only 2 minutes.
But no, there was a comedy where episode 2 was a recap of episode 1. Or they started it off that way, and then they just someone came along and threw the joke into the garbage.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of the show. If you guys, listeners, if you know the name of that show, please let us know. Make a comment about it or whatever. But I'm positive there's a comedy out there that episode 2 is a recap episode. I cannot remember what it is, though. Anyway. Or I could just be, I could just be making it up on my own. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, episode, so they start working late nights trying to get this job done, and we start seeing something that Miyamori does, when she can't handle the stress. And what does she do?
She starts imagining that 2 of her plushies are talking to each other. And her 2 plushies are this gothic Lolita, chick and a teddy bear.
She's like a pirate of sorts. She's got an eye patch.
Yeah. She's got long curly locks of blonde hair. She's Goldilocks with an eye patch and a gothic maid outfit or something.
I'm pretty sure it's brown hair, but yeah, it's whatever. It doesn't matter. But she's purple and black. She's very, very gothic outfit. And then there's the white stuffed bear.
Is there a skull and crossbones on her eye patch?
Yes, there's a skull and crossbones on her eye patch.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then there's a white stuffed bear, and then in her imagination, they start talking through the problems.
The doll is brown-haired. The actual gothic Lolita is blonde.
Yes, there is an actual gothic Lolita who is the, as I mentioned before, she was the animation supervisor who just did minor corrections on keyframe.
Yep, and we'll get to her later because I adore her character. But anyway, so yeah, and episode 1. She goes and the next day, she goes and she picks up the frames, and we see that the animator worked all through the night. She's looking exhausted, overspent. She's got like patches on her head, to kind of keep herself awake and stuff. She's in a blanket, and she goes and she delivers the key frames. And then later on that day, after they send the key frames to go get everything else done for them, she goes and she drives and she picks up some donuts, her favorite snack. And she goes back to the animator to give her a present for thanking her for being so good and job well done type thing, And she knocks on the door, says, "This is me from so-and-so company." And there's a loud thump in the apartment. And she opens up the door and the animator is collapsed on the floor. And that's the end of the first episode.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. That was the end of the first episode.
And that's when they play the actual OP. So in episode 1, the opening credits sequence happens during the race that we mentioned. And so the song is the song they're playing on the radio. And
they're showing the credits and things like that.
But in traditional anime, in anime tradition, the ending credits in episode 1 become the opening credits from there on out. And the ending credits starts with something amazing. And I think you wrote that down about...
I started writing it down, but I deleted it, just because, but they draw the girls, the 5 main girls, and then the 5 main girls pop into life after that, and I just thought that was kind of cool.
And they go through, what the ending, what the credits end up doing is a glimpse into different things that that go on in a studio, and one of the things that they show is one of the main five girls in a motion capture suit doing baseball motion, swinging a bat. And I was just remembering a behind the scenes thing I saw for Star Wars when they were the difference between episode 2 and episode 3.
I think that's Misa, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's one of the problems I was having with the show, is that of the five main girls, I only really connected with the first one in the first 3 episodes. They really haven't. One other that they have she's an in-betweener.
She's an in-betweener, and then you meet the redhead she's trying to break into voice acting, but she's currently working as a...
And she's in a couple scenes, but we haven't really gotten to who the 5 were at the beginning.
The other girls start coming in more and more throughout the entire series, but right now they're just trying to establish...
But they're not really established in the first 3.
Not in the first 3 episodes, no.
Okay.
They do a pretty good job of bringing the girls in and stuff like that throughout the rest of the series.
But like I was saying, in when they did the motion capture for the clone troopers in Star Wars, something that was a big difference is that they had the animators doing the motion capture for the clone troopers in episode 2, but then they actually brought military people to do the motion capture for episode 3, and so their motions of what they were doing, including one of them jumping on a droid and firing straight down into him, that was motion captured from military trained individuals.
Nice.
And so they had the motion was right. And so when I'm seeing in the anime, I'm seeing the animator girl doing motion capture for a baseball swing. It's like, but then I see some of these anime that actually do, like I just absolutely adore some of the anime that we've watched, including Kids on the Slope, where they had motion capture instrument playing. And it was so authentic. It was beautiful, including the ending credits to Tonari no Seki-kun.
Well, that's also what they did for Cowboy Bebop. Like, Spike's martial artist is somebody doing martial arts, and they just traced him. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's why those scenes are so fluid, is because they actually draw people doing it.
It's just so beautiful. So that's just something that's absolutely amazing that anime does frequently, is that they bring in professionals who can do the motion and bring in so much character and class. And that was just something that both... I want to say that not so much in Sound Euphonium, because there's not a whole lot that you see when you're doing that kind of instrumentality, but playing the drums, there's a lot more physicality between playing the drums versus playing a saxophone or something. But the violin and piano work in Your Lie in April was fabulous, and things like that. And I'm not saying that they didn't bring that people in for Sound Euphonium, but because it was band work, there was a lot less physical motion involved in that kind of...
So, real fast, I'm sorry, we're getting a little bit off subject here, but...
Well, we're talking about the construction of anime, which is what this anime is about.
Yeah, and one of the things that I absolutely, we watched this show earlier, and I've watched all of it at this point. Asobi Asobase. Okay? That show is just adorably horrible.
It's wonderful.
And I was watching Mother's Basement, and he was rating his top openings for the year.
Okay.
And Asobi Asobase was one of them. I think it was number 10. I can't remember.
Oh, nice. And we talked about that during our podcast about it.
One of the reasons he brings it up is he... not only is it a huge risk to make you think that this is the show. I mean, with Pop Team Epic, you knew, like, going into it, people who knew Pop Team Epic knew that it was just a big gag. That opening was a gag.
Yes.
Okay?
And it lasted for a minute, and
that wasn't even the opening credits. Like, they had their opening credits, their crazy over the top opening credits, and then they had that little gag, okay? Whereas Asobi Asobase, this is their opening credits.
Yeah.
And one of the
beautiful girls on a slope.
Beautiful girls doing cute things. But the thing is, he talks about how the opening credits gives them subtle hints that this not as all as it seems. Like with Olivia, where she says that everything started with a little lie, type thing. And we all know Olivia pretended to be a foreigner just so she could make fun of the other girls.
So she could abuse people. She's a horrible person. She is. But
one thing that I did not know, and that he pointed out, is that the flower that they have in the opening credits, I think it's the lily. Do you know what one of the meanings of the lily is?
What?
Deception. And it is plastered everywhere in the opening credits.
So the opening credits, the flower meaning is, this is a lie. What you're seeing right now is a lie.
Well, and there's the main meaning for it. I can't remember what the main meaning for it is, but a secondary meaning for the lily is deception. So it's just like, this is false. This is fake. This is not how the show is at all. Just hammering, like, just silently hammering it into your head that this is not what this show is about.
That's brilliant.
So yeah. Anyway. So yeah. The gosh, Asobi Asobase was just so good.
Okay.
All right. So episode 2 happens. And she takes care of the animator, makes sure the animator rests. The animator's like, no, I'm not done yet. I'm sure the fever is going to go down in a couple of hours. I'll be able to finish those. She's like, no, don't you dare.
We need you to be well.
Yeah, we need you to be well. So I will take these and we'll get them to someone else. Mm-hmm. And so she does that. She takes them and she gets them to someone else. I forget who. Excuse me. The main, but yeah, so I think we should probably just focus on the main plot of episode 2.
So the person she takes them to, she starts calling around, and the person she ultimately takes them to is the guy who is judgmental of the work of the girl who now has the fever.
The animations director or whatever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so she starts begging and pleading with him and offering things to him that she has. She's like, what can I do for you? Do you like donuts? I don't like sweet things. Do you like beer? I don't like bitter things. Do you like fame, fortune? How are you going to get me those?
I will get them. I will get them for you. I don't need them.
Do you want fame, fortune? Like, yeah. How would you even do that?
So, and he relents and he decides to help. Anyway, so she gets that taken care of, and we should probably talk about the main issue with this episode. And this is the first time where we see the voice actors. Mm-hmm. Episode actually starts out. This episode starts out with the show they are making is a show about 3 former idols who are breaking back into the business
and happen to be magical girls, or something. I think there's something going on. I thought they had magical powers.
I don't think they have. I don't think they're magical girls. I think, like, I could be wrong. I could very well be wrong. I don't know. We see them in their day clothes, and then we see them in their idol outfits.
Right.
So it could just be a typical idol show.
It could be.
But anyway, we meet the 3 girls who are the voice actresses for the 3 idols, and the director is trying to do the storyboard for the last episode.
Yeah.
And the girls come up and they're just like, "Oh, you're working on the storyboards. How's the show gonna end?" And he's just like, "How do you think it should end?" And they're just like, "What? Huh?" But anyways, they then go in and they do voice recording session, and we see them giving feedback and doing all the stuff that they do during voice recording sessions. And one of the big differences between Japanese voiceover sessions and American voiceover sessions is that for the majority of not for American voice acting sessions, I mean, like, I've seen it happen plenty of times in behind the scenes footage for American made shows, but for dubbing, a lot of the times they'll have just one actor in that booth,
right,
recording the lines,
right.
Which, to me, and I'll go ahead and just say this, that's one of the reasons that dubbing doesn't work for me as opposed to subtitles,
right? Because
there's that disconnect between the characters. Whereas in and I know that's how they do it in movies as well, but whatever. But for me, and going back to Konosuba, we were talking about earlier, one of the great things about Konosuba is, you remember how Cosmo would just say in the background, "Yes, I'm Cosmo." Like, whenever they would just like,
hi, Cosmo.
"Yes, I'm Cosmo." Like, no, just things like that. That's improv. Some of the funniest stuff in Konosuba is improv. You cannot recapture that same charm dubbing over it.
And that's something they did in the something they actually demonstrated live in episodes of Pop Team Epic, was that they had group sessions.
Yeah.
And that's something that they show in the animation of this show, is that they're doing group session recordings.
Well, and they do that with like Futurama did that, Batman the Animated Series did that. Where it's group sessions, where everybody's in the room. Everybody who they can get into the room together is in the room together.
Yes.
And I remember Mark Hamill would say that when he voiced the Joker, he would always stand up, whereas everybody else would just keep sitting. But for him, he couldn't help but get his entire body into it.
There is a sound that your body produces when your whole body is moving.
Yeah.
And voice actors know this.
But anyway, so that's what they do. They do the group session where everybody's together to record it.
And it looks like they were it looks like the animation was pretty much half done already, and they had timed out what they were going to do, and so they were synchronizing to what was already keyframed.
Yeah, they're syncing that stuff. They knew they knew what was coming, and so they were doing that and getting it ready. And then when they start watching the final cut, the director notices that something's off, and he just can't put his finger on it. And then he realizes, and it's a very
I thought it was episode 3 that this happened. Was it episode 2 that this?
This is a 2-episode arc that this happens in.
Right.
Because in episode 2, that's when they have the brainstorming session and stuff like that. Whereas episode 3, it's her getting caught up with. Episode 3 ends.
I love how episode 3 ends.
Yeah, episode 3 ends extremely well. Okay.
Yeah, it's the perfect finale to this arc. Let's talk this arc.
Yeah, so it's this arc starts in episode 2, because I wrote here episode 2, them getting excited about the characters' favorite food and stuff like that.
Right.
And that happens when they're trying to redefine the characters and kind of find out who they really are.
And apparently something our main character, Miyamori-san, did was she actually did make profiles of each of the characters with lots of details of just the little things that have been mentioned in script, in story. And it's like, oh, so she was part of this school? Yeah, it's mentioned in this episode. Oh, you're right.
What happens is that she... what happens is that the director notices that there's this very, very emotional scene where a character who the girls trusted, it's revealed that she is a traitor.
Yeah.
That she's actually working for the enemy.
Yeah.
And there's a reveal that's acted beautifully by the voice actress for this one character.
Yeah.
But the animation just doesn't match it.
Yeah, the voice acting was too good for the animation that was there. And it took him a while to figure it out. It's like, no, the directing wasn't wrong. It's something else. And it takes a while for the director to put his finger on it, because he's not great at communicating his ideas.
Well, and the other directors are yelling at him and stuff like this, because apparently this director, the lead director, who's a fairly overweight Japanese man, he apparently has a history of doing this, and they're getting frustrated with it. And there's this big argument in the sound editing room, and but the director finally comes to the conclusion that, no, this is something that we need to take care of. This is something that we need to fix. And Miyamori, she says that, well, if we start the recutting process tonight with keyframes, we can get it done in time for the show.
For the release, yeah.
For the release.
But this is... what they've established in the show by this point is that this is a weekly release schedule. And they are crunching every minute of every day.
Well, they had the goal, and we see this. I think in this episode, they had the goal where every episode they wanted to have the keyframes done 2 weeks before the episode aired.
Right.
And that's what their goal was. Episode 1 was 2 weeks out. Episode 1 was 1 week out. Episode 3 was 3 days out.
Yeah.
So they're just saying, at this rate, what's going to happen to episode 4, which of course freaks out Miyamori even more. But anyway. They then have this big meeting that night with all the lead animators, the directors, and things like that, and Miyamori, because it's her episode, pretty much at that point. And they have this big conversation about, well, what are we gonna do? And people are like, wait, what do you mean? What's happening? And then they play it, and they're just like, oh, okay, we get what you're talking about. Like, the voice acting is just too good for the animation. And so, like, but what are we gonna do? Is this gonna throw things off? They have this big conversation. And that's when they start, discussing the girls, and the director's just like, well, here's the thing. I realized during this episode that this girl here knows this person from her past, and so she knew that she was suspecting her of betraying them, but she couldn't tell her friends because she didn't have proof,
and she couldn't believe it,
and she couldn't believe it until it happened. And so they took everything they knew about the characters, and they just added a bunch of things about the characters, and then they were just like, okay, well, and so they gave it to one of the in-house animators to go ahead and
now, was it the Gothic Lolita animator that
no,
did it?
She's the one who fixes it the next day.
But they had some pro animator start sketching up what the face would look like. It's like, but there was a big discussion about how we draw this character. How do we keep it moe?
She was their in-house.
Yeah.
They want to make sure it's moe. And it's just like, well, she's the type of person who would just go drinking with you. Is drinking moe? You know, like if she's holding a bottle of sake, sure, it's moe, you know, type thing.
It's moe.
But she seems like the kind of person who would, like this person, she'd come with you, but she wouldn't drink very much. Well, whereas her, she would drink, but she'd be out after a couple of drinks. She can't hold her liquor at all, you know, and just, they got into this huge discussion just discussing these characters.
About character development, and it's a very important discussion to have.
And falling in love with the girls all over again, as we see a visual key, like, of the girls appear in front of them thanks to Miyamori doing something. And the girls, like, going and, like, grabbing the hands of the directors and stuff like that. A very, very silly scene.
And then, is it during that scene or just after that scene that the president walks in with a bowl full of those octopus
The president
balls?
first walks in with a bowl of candy. And then, later on during the meeting, he has this massive tray of those takoyaki. Which you can actually try at a local Japanese place.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they've got them and they're pretty good.
I just remember, like, he's tripped or slips or something, and then somebody grabs it and catches all of them and places it down on the table.
What happens is he comes back with the
takoyaki. A la
Spider-Man. He comes back with a takoyaki because they keep sending Miyamori to go do things because she's the production assistant. She's like, okay, I'll take care of that. And she almost runs into him this next time. But then the president comes in with the plate of takoyaki, and he hands it off to the Mohawk guy, and the Mohawk guy's like, I'll take that, and he grabs it, but he burns his hands on it, and so he throws it in the air, and it's Goth Lolita who catches the plate, and
then Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man Trey catches all of it.
Did you know there was no CG in that scene, or it's all him catching everything?
Yes.
Yeah, that's nuts.
I know that they made the tray sticky for it, but that he had to do that, and and I think there were more than just one take.
Oh no, it was like 117, 130, something like that. Yeah. It was crazy. Speaking of which, the Spider-Man trailer went to launch today. I
saw that one.
Yeah,
I think it's a prequel. I think it takes place before the ending credit sequence in that. And
you think so?
I think it does.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it takes place after. Like, maybe it could be.
I don't know. I think it just might be what happens to Spider-Man before. I don't know.
Before Infinity War?
Before Infinity War.
Maybe.
Like, it establishes where Nick Fury's... I keep saying Nick Cage. I did it to my wife earlier today. Where Nick Fury's been this whole time. Because he's been absent for a few movies.
Yeah, you're right. But at the same time, I could very much see it being Nick Fury is trying to reorganize the Avengers after the events of Infinity... Of Endgame.
Of Endgame, yeah.
Of Endgame.
It's possible.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could fit in either place.
I was talking with our sister about it, and she's like, well, it just feels disconjointed. That, like, you know, like, it doesn't really, it's not really, the story doesn't really make sense. And I'm just like, well, it's a teaser, first of all. Secondly, for all we know, they can't show a ton of the story at this point because Endgame isn't out yet, and it might spoil Endgame. And she's like, oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, so in timeline, it could be a prequel. It could just be something that takes place just before Spider-Man ends up going up in Infinity War.
It could be.
That's based on what they've shown us. It could be either.
Yeah. Anyway, going back to the subject at hand. Again, the president just keeps bringing them food and stuff. That's great.
Yep.
But they go ahead and the in-house animator, she works on the keyframes and she works on them all throughout the night. And they are burning the midnight oil at this point, trying to do whatever they can. And Miyamori, she's also worried about episode 4 because she's still in charge of it. But with episode 4, she...
one of her senpais starts I don't remember where exactly it happens, but one of her senpais starts harassing her about how she doesn't have every single detail of every keyframe memorized at all times.
He's the lead assistant. I can't remember what his name is, but he's a fairly rotund guy, and he's the lead assistant. He's in charge of all the production assistants. And
he can be and he doesn't realize how overbearing he can sometimes be.
Yeah, because another one, like a female production assistant with twin tails, slaps him and says, "You're freaking her out. Stop being so overbearing. That's one of your problems, you know." But she says, it's also revealed that one of the key animators for episode 4 is known for slacking off and doing things at the last minute.
Mm.
And so they're like, you need to keep calling this guy until he answers. It's like, but it's like 2 a.m. Call him. Okay. And if he's awake, he'll answer. If not, he needs to be awake.
Right.
Type thing. So she just keeps calling him, and she has another, like, after a lot of people have gone home and she's still bringing them in that oil, she's, the goth Lolita says, I'll be back at 7 a.m. To go ahead and make the corrections. And then, the director or one of the directors says, okay, I will go ahead and, I need you, like, what time can I go home? It's like, well, you can go home after you've done these key frames. He's like, great. And then he's like, well, I don't really need to be here, but go ahead and call me at 6:30 and make sure that I'm here. It's like, okay. And I will probably tell you I need another hour. Do not let me have another hour, no matter what I say.
Yes.
And
yes, that's the, he's the boss. He's the one who berates the, director for all the trouble.
Yeah, he's the one. There's...
So he's a producer who's had, a lot of experience in the industry. And so he's...
I don't know if he's a producer. I think he's one of the episode directors rather than the overall director. The guy who's in charge of the entire project.
Okay.
But because he was one of the ones who was recording, timing the sound for what needs to go where.
Yeah.
But anyway, he because again he's like, was my directing wrong type thing in the sound booth. He's the one who's yelling at him when he realizes when the head director realizes that they need to make adjustments to the episode. Yeah. But anyway, so she is then listing off all the things that she needs to do, and she starts getting a bit more frazzled.
Yeah.
A bit more frazzled. And then she
lies down on her desk, and I don't know if they're physically... yeah, they are physically there, the doll and the bear.
Mm-hmm. She's got a set of them at her
desk.
Desk.
Are now sympathizing over her.
She's got a set of them at her desk and a set of them at her home. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they're sympathizing over her. And then she wakes up and it's 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, crap, I fell asleep. I didn't mean to do that. But then, at 6:30 she calls him and he's like, just give me another hour. She's like, nope, you must get up. He's like, just 10 more minutes. No, absolutely not. What are you, some kind of a demon? And he says, if you are not here, I will forge your signature on the episodes and send them along. You wouldn't dare do that type thing. And so, but then he comes in and he does his job. And the Lolita shows up and the key animator, she's finished her job. And the Lolita shows up and she's very properly dressed in her outfit. She's got a quill nub at the end of each of her pencils.
And as I recall, in this scene, it's really important because she invites the other classmate who's the in-betweener to watch what she's doing.
Well, she knows she's there when Miyamori doesn't even recognize her. Well, so what happens is that the Lolita sits down and she puts the green adjustment sheet over the main one, and she just says, Yasuhara Emma, which is the name of the girl with the twin tails, the one who's the artist. And then Miyamori jumps and goes, ha! And she jumps to the side, and Emma is standing directly behind her. Exactly. So she crept up in absolute silence to see what was going on. But the gothic Lolita was able to sense that she was there.
Yeah.
And she just makes simple adjustments. She's like, this needs to be corrected, It's like, boom, that's done. Boom, that's done. Boom, that's done, type thing.
Yeah.
And then once that's done, they send it on over to, I think it's coloring next.
I think you're right, yeah.
I think they take it to coloring, and then coloring takes it to
timing. I put a note over here. I put a note in, being absolutely loving the fact that I'm seeing Adobe After Effects and other editing suites that I use at work presently to do my job. It's like, oh, I know how to do that. I know what she's doing with that program. Which, again, reminded me of the opening credits of my neighbor, Tonari wa Seki-kun? Tonari no Seki-kun?
Tonari no Seki-kun?
Where the opening credits is him making the opening credits.
Oh,
doing voice recording and
have you read any of what I sent you, by the way, if you got the chance? I haven't read it yet, but no. I have My Neighbor Seki-kun.
I have not read them. I have not read the Master of Killing Time, the manga yet.
I need to read that just because I just want to see what the artist does. Just that opening where he's uncovered a secret entrance underneath the carpet on his desk and opens it up, and there's a staircase going down into his desk.
Into the desk. There's a trap door, and the girl saying,
The girl's just like,
she's
what?
I love her so much. Her reactions are so brilliant.
Her reactions is what really sells the humor in that.
Yes.
But anyway, so bit by bit the episode's coming together, but she's still in charge of episode 4 as well.
Yeah.
So she is working on doing everything they need for episode 4. And that's when she just starts getting super frazzled and just like she's slowly descending into that's I guess that's in episode 3 when that happens.
Where she starts slowly descending into madness.
Do you remember where episode 2 ends?
No, I thought we talked about the ending of episode 2, where it ended right after they had discussed everybody's characterizations, and somebody had.
Is that the end of episode 2?
I thought it was.
It does. I don't remember.
It's been a week since I've seen it. I'm sorry.
Oh, I watched them all today.
I know you did. I haven't had a chance.
But anyway, they.
I'm looking forward to watching the rest of this, though. It's a pretty darn good show.
It's a fun. There's some stressful moments like right here, but it's still a fun show, especially when you see everything come together.
Right.
But anyways, episode 3, she's just losing it. And I mean like emotionally, physically, and
she's not the only one. The director slept under his desk at work, even though he's told everybody to go home and get rest because sleeping at the office is not good for you. He's sleeping at the office, breaking his own rule, and he's rolling over and having a nightmare. No more recap episodes.
I promise I'll never do a recap episode again, I swear.
And that's the name of the episode, is No More Recap Episodes.
But anyway, he what am I looking for? What's the phrase I'm looking for?
So we were talking about the director, or for,
she comes in, and things for episode 2 or episode 3 are really coming together, but she's also still in charge of episode 4. And episode 4 is very, very close to being done, but they outsource to another animation company to get some help done with it. And this other animation company is several hours away, but it's okay because they use an FTP server that they all share, and they can just upload data to and whatnot.
Right.
Well, the FTP server's gone down, and not only has it gone down, it has fried. So they say the server itself is just...
The server's down, the backup's down, everything is down, and there's no way of getting it back, and there's no record of when it's going to be coming back up again.
And she just said, this has also, I'm pretty sure it's episode 2 where she finally, or maybe it's episode 3, but she's still trying to get in touch with the animator who's not picking up his phone.
Yeah.
She finally gets in touch with him, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'll go, like, I'll have those 2 scenes done before noon. Don't you worry about it. I used to be able to get 8. I once got 8 scenes done in an hour. Like, I can do this just fine." And she's like, "Okay, I'll trust you. I'll believe you." And then she goes to the director and he says, "I don't believe him. He's not going to get it done in an hour. Yeah, no, he's not going to get it done by noon. It's not going to happen." And anyway, he turns out he's right, because he doesn't get it to her until later that night. But anyway, she gets a phone call when they're saying, "Okay, well, at least we know that this one animation studio, like Komori Animation or whatever, they're great. They're quality. We can trust them. Everything's going to be fine." And then she gets a phone call and says, "Oh, hi. What? You can't access the FTP server? You're not going to be able to get it to us? It's not going to happen?" "Oh, okay." And then she just gets up and she goes to the
restroom, I want to say.
No, she goes to the kitchen. And she starts
that's right. She starts worry washing her coffee mug.
She starts worry washing her teacup and just trying to get rid of the tea stains. And she's just over there just scraping it, and she's talking the animals aren't, her dolls aren't even there, but she's talking to herself in the voices of her dolls. And then the other girl assistant comes up and says, Miyamori. She's like, she has a weird nickname for her. It's Miyamori instead of Miyamori. She's saying it kind of like a cat's meow. Miyamori. But she sees Miyamori and she sees that she's just fried. And she's like, "You come over here right now." He's like, "Oh, okay." And she goes and they go up to the top. She's like, "Eat this." They're on the roof. Yeah. "Eat this." Okay.
It's the Snickers commercial scene.
And she tries to eat it, but it still has...
Take the wrapper off at first.
Take the wrapper off at first. Oh, all right. And she starts eating it. It's like, you have to have sugar. You have to eat something. You can't just push yourself until there's nothing left to push. But anyways, they go back down. He's like, so what's happening? And so,
and they force her to explain the problem, because even if she can't solve it, someone there might be able to. So tell us what's wrong.
Yeah, because this is a teamwork effort. It's not just you.
Yeah.
Don't let everything on your be on your shoulders. And he's like, man. And then the head production assistant just says, man, episode 4 is such an important episode. I can't, like, who gave you such an important episode for your very first episode? It was you. Oh, whoops. But one of them just says, yeah, the FTP server's complete,
yeah, it's affecting production on other episodes.
Yeah, other people nobody can log in. Like, I can't log into the server. Did you change the password? No. And then someone says, the server is just completely down. It's been down since this morning. I've been trying to call the server place, but nobody's answering. So I'm looking up online to see what any information that I can find. And then someone's finally just like, yeah, I was able to get in touch with someone there. The thing's fried. Like, there's nothing there. And then while all of this is happening, we see, and she's one of my favorite characters. I can't remember what her name is.
Cucumber.
But they've had a couple of early morning meetings where she's just like, she's the last person to speak because she's the general manager over all the workers. And she just says, she picks up they show a scene of her picking up the phone, hitting an auto dial button, and just very calmly having a conversation over the phone. And everyone else is kind of freaking out. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And she's saying, oh, yes, this is so-and-so from so-and-so. I'm calling about the information for episode 4. You can't upload it to a server, so I'm wondering if you still have it on a hard drive.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, you do? It's still on a hard drive? Great. Can we come pick it up? Oh, you're going to send someone out to come bring it to us? That's great news.
When will they be here?
When will they be here?
In 2 hours?
In 2.5 hours?
Fantastic.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Yes. And click. And it's just like, okay, everybody, the president of that animation studio is gonna be delivering it on a hard drive to us. It's gonna be here in about 2.5 hours. And they're just like, wait, what? Yeah, no, and she's just a miracle worker. She's incredible.
She solved the problem.
Mm-hmm. And once that's been solved, Mia Morty's just like, oh crap, I've got to go to the cutting for episode 9. And then the other girl grabs her and says, you cannot leave right now. You are the person who knows the most about episode 4. We need you to be here. He said, well, what about episode 9? And the general manager says, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And everyone's like, wait, what? You? Like, no, you. It's like,
are you back to being a PA for us?
That's overtime though. Are you okay with that? It's fine. It's just a one-time thing. You should go back into the field. Nope, this is a one-time thing. And then
so it's clear that she's the best of them, but she's moved on to doing other things.
But she goes to the cutting studio, and there's people there trying to give her tea and whatnot. She's like, no, I'm fine, whatever. She's just as cool as a cucumber, just amazing, hardworking woman, knows exactly what she's doing. And no one can tell her otherwise. But anyways, so things are progressing again with episode 4. The president of the company of the animation studio brings the hard drive, and he's greeted by the president of this studio, who gives him the quiche and says, this is in thanks for what you brought us last time, or whatever type thing. So it seems like the two studios have a really good relationship. She then goes and she gets the frames for the episode from the shoot from the guy she was trying to get in touch with. And she didn't get them till like after the sun went down. So like in Japan, that's around 5 o'clock when the sun goes down, 5-6 o'clock. There's a kitty.
There's a kitty nearby. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm trying to remember if there's anything else that happens other than, the director's watching the final cut for episode 3, and he's just in tears about it. And then they get the phone call and they're just like, hey, everybody can go home now. Their episode 3 was great. They're shipping it now. So
then the girls are in the conference room, and watching episode 3 air live, and it comes to the scene that they've been talking about. The
real
scene
fast.
they've been working on the whole time.
Real fast, the girl with the pigtails,
Yes.
once again, Emma, she's on the phone with the redhead, the girl who wants to be the voice actress, and they're just kind of chatting back and forth, and they're planning on they're planning their monthly get-together. I just wanted to say that. But anyway, yeah, and then it's Emma and Miyamori watching that scene together.
Now, previously, the scene was a close-up shot of the dits of the trio of these girls in their anime that they're working on, and she's got this adorable face and she starts crying. But as we've been saying, the acting in the animation doesn't match the quality of the acting in the video, in the audio, in the voice acting. The voice work is just too good for it. And then when they have the video again, when they have the last shot of this episode is watching the new animation that we haven't seen a single. We've seen nothing about what this animation is. We've just seen everybody else saying, "Yes, this is better. Yes, let's do this." We've seen everybody else's reaction to it, and we finally get to see it ourselves. And that is the last shot of episode 3.
And it's really good. It is really, really good.
Perfect. It is the exact right expression. I mean, one of the things about moe as a concept is it is a level of adorableness that gives you the need to protect it. And what they've done with her character is they've demonstrated this character who is moe losing her adorableness to this ugly cry that makes you feel for her so hard in this one moment. It is, I mean, anybody who has experience with the concept of moe understands that if you've seen somebody lose the smile that you wanted to protect, what that does to your heart, that's what they did in this scene, and it was perfect especially with the voice acting.
Okay, well, that's the first 3 episodes.
It is.
What are your final thoughts on it?
I can't wait to watch more of it. I wish I would have watched more of it during the week. I wish I had watched the first 3 episodes again during the week so I'd have more to talk about. But I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna find time to watch this and finish it.
Cool. It's good. I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm going to sit down and watch through it again just because I have so many other things to watch.
Sure.
But it's an enjoyable show. I highly recommend people watch it who haven't seen it yet. Okay, so that's it for that episode, for that show. Next week, we're going to go ahead and watch Karakai Jozu no Tagai-san. Now, I swear I'm going to tease and embarrass Tagai-san today. Nishikata, a middle schooler, keeps getting teased by the girl who sits next to him in class, Tagai-san. He tries every day to get back to her, but will he ever succeed? Takagi-san. Takagi-san and Nishikata's youthful teasing battle starts now. Now, when I first discovered Miss Komi-san, or Komi-san Can't Communicate, which is probably one of my favorite manga right now. It's just
really need to start reading that.
It's so adorable. It's so cute. Okay, so in the latest chapter that just happened today, they get together at a friend's house to have a sleepover and watch horror movies, okay? And Komi-san and Tadano-kun's the main character. They're sitting next to each other. And everybody, it's getting to this super intense part in the movie. And Tadano-kun feels something on his arm, and he looks down, and he sees Komi looking down super scared, and she's grabbed his shirt for comfort. And then the next scene, it shows this this scary, terrifying face on the screen. And the next one, and then right below that, it shows everybody screaming, but everybody's faces are it's like their faces drawn over the outside of the house type thing. And everybody's faces are looking one way and screaming, except for Tadano, who's looking the other way and screaming. And it said, only Tadano screamed for a different reason.
What reason did she scream for?
No. Tadano's the boy. Yeah, he's the one who got his... Because he and Komi are in love with each other at this point, but they're two teenagers who cannot
communicate their
feelings for each other.
Wow.
It's adorable. But yeah, so his scream was freaking out that Komi-san is coming to him for comfort. Yeah. Anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent, but I saw this image that was gauging the sanctity and the wholesomeness of three manga girls I had never seen before, and one was like the most pure was Komi-san. The most evil is another manga that I've been reading where there's this girl who's a freshman who can't help but tease her senpai, who is an artist and he draws manga and he hangs out in the art room a lot. And it's another romantic comedy where it's very obvious that those two enjoy each other. They like each other, but their relationship is such to where she thinks it's gross that he would like her. And she's so tsundere that she doesn't realize that she likes him. Okay? Or she knows she likes him, but she cannot process it. So her way of processing it is teasing him. Okay? And in the webcomic, she was
Toradora.
In the webcomic, she was absolutely evil. She was just terrible. Whereas in the manga, because a lot of times things will change when they go from webcomic to manga. She still teases him relentlessly, but it's much more she's trying to hide her feelings for him rather than she's just evil. And then in the middle was another girl I had never seen before, and she's the girl from this manga/anime. Okay. So that's why I picked this.
Okay.
Because of that image that I saw a while ago.
It's in between the nicest girl and the most evil girl.
The nicest girl and the most evil girl. So
okay.
I am really looking forward to watching this. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
And I am going to be traveling next week, so we may not be able to record next week just for listeners. But I should be back fairly early on Wednesday, but then again, I'm gonna be coming back from a flight, so I don't know if I'll have the energy to record. Okay, we're just gonna play it by ear next week. Okay, all right. So that's it for 3 episodes in. Now it's time for the recommendation of the week.
This week it's my turn, and this week I'm recommending a classic anime, Durarara.
Izaya.
Now, Durarara is a Japanese onomatopoeia for a revving of a motor. So technically, the title character of the show is Celty's motorcycle.
Or the noise that her motorcycle makes.
Yes.
So
Celty is a beautiful Dullahan. And we've met a Dullahan. And we've met a Dullahan in Konosuba before, where they're a spirit of
they're a fallen knight, a fallen warrior.
They're of Irish origin, but it's the headless horseman type.
Yeah.
And so they have a person who's holding their head. There's one in another show called Interview with Monster Girls. And so there's a girl,
which is another manga that I've added to my list to read because I hear it's adorable.
It is adorable. And then there's Celty, who rides around with a motorcycle and communicates with text messages on her phone. She just types out what she's trying to say and then holds up a pager to
Celty's great. Yeah, because she has no mouth.
So she's kind of the main character of the show. Everybody in the show has some tie to her in some way. She's not necessarily the main character, but she's kind of a thread that ties everybody else together.
Yeah, she's definitely. I don't even know if I want to say the main POV character because the show's told from multiple perspectives.
It is.
But she is definitely the thread that ties everything together.
Yes. So, and so there's just people have legends about her and things like that. So all of this takes place in a prefecture, I want to say, is the name for it?
Ikebukuro.
Ikebukuro is the name of it.
No, Ikebukuro is a
city?
Is a town in Tokyo.
It's a town in Tokyo.
It's like how there's New York City, and New York City's broken up into
the Bronx,
Manhattan, things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's exactly that.
So a sub city of Tokyo, Ikebukuro, is the setting of our of Durarara.
And it takes.
I'm getting to that.
I'm sorry.
And so, God. So,
Hey, you've stolen my thunder plenty of times.
okay. So in this show, uh, there are multiple characters. There are dozens of unique characters that all interact with each other in different ways throughout the show, and it's really fun to see them come together and different things happening. One of the characters is a blonde man dressed as a waiter at all times in kind of a waiter's tuxedo, who, in the opening credits of the show, lifts a vending machine that is bolted to the ground, a mailbox or a vending machine that's bolted into the ground, rips it and the cement that it's bolted to out of the ground and throws it at some other guy. This guy is given the greatest nickname in all of anime. They call him the Fortissimo of Ikebukuro. And for those of you who don't know music, Fortissimo is a marking in sheet music that is 2 Fs, and it is... in music, you have forte meaning strong or piano meaning soft, and depending on how loud or soft you think, you say it. Fortissimo means very strong or strongest. So literally, his nickname means the strongest in Ikebukuro, but they just call him the Fortissimo of Ikebukuro, and it's fantastic.
They don't actually call him Fortissimo in Japanese. That's just how it's translated in the subtitles. I think they just call him Ikebukuro no Saikyo, which means like the strongest of Ikebukuro. Yeah. But it's like I will admit the subtitle is a great subtitle. Yeah. So
it's just fantastic. So props to whoever got to write that out. So, but no, it's a great show. A lot of interesting characters. Sometimes it can be hard to follow. There is a subplot in this show that is absolutely brilliant. One guy decides he doesn't like another guy. And so what he does is he founds a street gang that he's secretly the leader of. And then he founds a rival street gang that he's secretly the leader of. And then he frames the guy he doesn't like as the leader of both of these street gangs. And so both street gangs end up targeting him. Because he doesn't like this guy.
It is a show that requires your attention.
Yes.
Do not watch this casually.
Yeah, it is an intense focus show. It's got a lot of pieces going on. It's a bit like Memento in that way. You can't watch it casually. You've got to be paying attention. So, again, highly recommend it. Go watch it. Both seasons.
It is wonderful. Okay, if that's it for a recommendation of the week, it's creator shout-out time, and it's my turn to do it. And this week I pick Black Magic Craft. I discovered them on YouTube, and I've got all their links here to Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and other things. But Black Magic Craft is he is a miniature and model maker for Dungeons and Dragons. He makes all his own stuff. And the very first episode I saw of his was him taking a cheap little dragon from about 6 inches long or so.
Sure.
A dragon toy from the dollar store and repainting it so he could use it as a green dragon in the Dungeons and Dragons game.
Okay.
And what he did, he took it and he just and his goal at in that episode was to use only materials he had on hand. He couldn't go buy anything else. So he went, and the first thing he did was he cleaned it, because sometimes there's a residue of mold, like a slight mold residue, on the toys that you get from cheap places like the dollar store and whatnot. And he just wanted to get that off. And that mold, it's not really toxic, but it will interfere with painting it.
Sure.
So he cleaned it off, and then he put it back together, and he got it into the pose that he wanted it in. And he used his own concoction of super glue and baking soda, which makes a super fast, super strong plastic seal. So he got the arms in the position he wanted them in, and then he just used this. He put in super glue, and baking soda, and it just makes a super fast, super strong seal. And he after he got it in the position he wanted it in, he just gave it a quick he has his own homemade a foundation base. And then he painted it all in black, and then he painted it in green, and just did like a simple wash on it, and made a really, really cool looking green dragon for D&D super cheap. I have also seen him make a hag's hut out of some foam. And another episode, he decided he had heard that it's a pretty good material to use for bricks and whatnot. So he decided to go ahead and test egg carton. And he found that, and if you know how egg carton, one side is generally fairly rough looking. Well, he just cut it up and cut it into little pieces, and he glued those pieces around a toilet paper roll.
Yeah.
And then he just painted it with the I forget what it's called, but it's what you put on first in order to have the paint actually bind. Primer. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he used his homemade primer to paint it black and get it all there in the notches, and he just showed that, and he just showed, like, after a single coat of paint, how good this material was for making bricks. He's like, this is incredible, holy cow. And yeah, so he's just this incredible creative guy that focuses on making miniatures and things like that, and I've thoroughly enjoyed his content, and I wanted to go ahead and give him a shout out.
Fantastic.
So, all right, once again, that is Black Magic Craft.
All right. So come to whitakerweekly.com and we will link out to him.
All right. So thanks so much for listening in this week. If you listened on YouTube, please feel free to like this episode and subscribe to our channel. If you like what we do and want to support us, please spread the word of our podcast or even support us on Patreon. Where can they find us on social media?
Our site, whitakerweekly.com, currently has the links to our Facebook page, Twitter account, Patreon page, and YouTube channel. We encourage all our listeners to follow us on the social media platform of their preference. And if there's one we're not on yet, please reach out to us on one of the ones we've mentioned, and we'll broaden our scope to include you.
All right. Well, I want to give a shout out to Ben Coombs for providing the artwork for our website and podcast.
And a shout out to Brasmataz for their music Dreiklok, which we use for our opening and closing pieces.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. I've been Andrew.
I've been Lee.
And this has been Whitaker Weekly. You guys have a great week.